Hey, we're only 7 minutes late. So enjoy it. Welcome everyone to Wednesday Night Live show. I am your host, John Truncali, and my co-host for tonight is Michelle and Phillip when he gets here. Our guest tonight is the stat queen, Lindsey Stroud, will be joining us. Is joining us.
Yes,
she is. She's right.
Yes.
She's right there.
This way.
And of course, Sir Charles Gardner. Where is his knight in shining armor? Tonight's show is about our community's time spent in limbo. What can we do to help get our message out there, and not only to the general public, but also to the new administration, letting them know that we're still out there waiting for answers. That's what our show's about tonight, guys. And as you can see, no Timmy here tonight. Allison had she's in our prayers, her and her family. She had a death in the family, so prayers to Allison and her family. And Phillip will be here shortly. I'm sure he'll show up in mid-sentence. Someone will be in mid-sentence, and then Phil will just pop in there and interrupt. That's how it works. We're going to start with the ladies down at the bottom. Michelle, how is your week going?
It's going good. It's going real good. It's been a little tough on the nerves, but going good. Going real good.
I'm going to stay.
Taking lots of breaks outside, because it was beautiful earlier in the week.
Yeah, so I'm going to say the two people at the bottom are living in paradise, and they get to enjoy the sunshine, and, they're walking around in shorts and,
right, Lindsey?
Not for the next couple days,
That's true.
They're going to tell us that the state of Florida only has 8 snow plows. I wonder why.
It's the truth. You like that, didn't you? It's the truth, though.
Yeah, it's the truth. I hope they spread them out at least. I mean, it's a big state. Knowing the way government is, all eight of those are in New Orleans, where they are not. New Orleans, Orlando, and they don't.
They're in Jacksonville, I believe.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lindsey,
Gainesville,
where they just sitting in the sun baking.
Save the college kids.
And people in those cities are like, "What are those? I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
What does it do?"
It's a big
driving them around.
It's big tractors. Remember, it's just tractors. That's their snow plows.
Yeah. Oh, Lindsey, how's your week going?
Oh, just another week, another bunch of state lawmakers. We're continuing on with alarmism. So, my world's on fire. How about yours? We're one day closer to the end of, 2025 state session time. So that's how it's going.
Yeah. You know what they should have? They have celebrity boxing. They should have some sort of boxing for us with like senators. And I'm just throwing it out.
Remind me to share. I can probably share it in the YouTube chat. There is a video, and it's fantastic. I came upon it back in 2015 when I was working for state lawmakers, and it's this compilation of just lawmakers from across the world fighting, and then they got to do I need the hero, and everything. And I'll tell you, these South Korean women are insane. They'll just go walk up. The guy's speaking at, in front of everybody, and they just go up and smack them. And they got one guy in some African country that's sitting on top of something, and it comes down they take him down by his robe and everything. And At one point, they started throwing chairs at each other. It's just fantastic. And yeah, I mean, I think they should do that more in Congress. I mean, if you know your history, I mean, we did have a caning one time before the Civil War. I mean, and we used to tar and feather our taxmen, you know? I mean,
yeah.
To get back to some traditions.
We need that. I mean, I remember watching that video as well, but I don't remember one thing that I took from that video. I didn't see that passion in America. Like you saw.
There's only like two videos that were in America.
I
think it was actually only one. The one that I can remember was Alabama. It was a committee hearing in Alabama, and then they broke it up. They weren't really good fighters. I mean, It's like, wow, nobody's landing a punch.
They're already sweating before they got started.
Yeah. They're old people too, really old.
That's true too. I mean, we brought it up before. I mean, I was watching C-SPAN before the election and they were panning it, and I was like, "Is this are there our representatives or is this a retirement home in Florida?" Because like it was a retirement home in Florida, you know.
Except for women, I don't know. You have last year, I think it was last year. It was like Jasmine Crockett out of Texas, AOC, you had Marjorie and Lauren and whatnot, and they were like in this appropriations committee just going back and forth, screaming at each other and everything about, they like started with fake eyebrows, but the better fake eyelashes. But like, the funny thing was watching the chairman just being like, oh my God. And it's like, you were waiting for one of them to be like, oh, come on. Like, let's see these girls, you know, let's get a girl fight in there.
Dig it out.
Show the guys how it's done.
Hey, the ratings on C-SPAN would go flying if they had an actual girl fight on there.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Hey, but, you know, it sells, okay? I mean, how many people watch the Super Bowl?
You got to keep the general public happy, you know?
Yes.
Good fight. Mr. Charles Gardner, how is your week going?
Good. And I think I have a problem because my sleep schedule is just gone way like off the rails.
Yeah.
I was awake at 1 o'clock this morning.
Oh man.
I'm always awake at 2.
I was at work at 1 a.m.
So like everything is kind of confused, but so I'm trying to get it shifted back around to where it should be. So I've just recently finished like a big 9-month-long project, and it went well and good outcome. And I have a couple of other projects coming up, but right now I'm in a kind of in-between space with some extra bandwidth, and it's a fairly relaxing time. I'm enjoying myself.
Nice.
Good.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, you got to take advantage of those moments when you get some free time to enjoy it. And, you know, as they say on one of my favorite shows, treat yourself. You got to treat yourself.
I have a question for Lindsey. So I
right off the
read
bat.
somewhere that the Youth Risk Behavioral Surveillance Survey, YRBSS, was taken offline because it contains some of the now prohibited woke virus.
Gender.
Yeah, the gender, there's gender, there's also sexual identity. Okay, so don't even get me started on that one, but but all of it was taken offline when they pulled all of it. So like the BRFIS, so behavioral risk factor survey system, like or whatever surveillance system survey came off, and I still no, that one might be up, but the Youth Online was back up yesterday. The YRBS is now back up too. As far as like the dashboard, I think BRFIS is still down though. Even though they didn't really have, I mean, they might have had, you know, your sexual identity.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only gender they had in there is male or female, but
I mean, those are questions on the survey. So,
I mean, they did it with a lot of stuff, and actually, the CDC did update their e-cigarette page, but because it says it used to say pregnant people, now it says pregnant women.
Yeah, women. Yeah.
And that was all they did, because I had to double check it. It said that they just updated it January 31st or whatever. And then so I went through like a, like a teacher would use, like, to do plagiarism or something, and, double check everything. And that was the only difference that they made on it. And it still has the alarmism and some of the, diacetyl and all this,
all the nonsense is still there.
BS, yeah.
Well, let me quickly do a Timmy and say hello to everybody out there. Robert is out there, a lawyer, which is not spelled correctly, but we won't go into that. Mallory is there. I'm just joking. Microwave oven is out there.
Hey.
Yeah, and James R is out there.
Arr.
And I see Michael Redford is out there. Cherokee Warrior is a new face.
Hey.
Yeah, Cherokee Warrior is out there. And this person named Lindsey Stroud. I don't know who she is. She's there. She's over there
too.
I'm not going to get more views, okay? So come on. I know how this all works.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up this subject on the show because I feel like we're, I was talking to Lindsey earlier, and just I kind of feel like we as a community are kind of just sitting around. I don't want to say we're sitting around with our hands, on our pot or whatever that saying is. I don't want to go into it, but I just feel like, is there more that we can do? And that's why I wanted you two on the show, because you guys are immersed in the stats, and then and Phil, I'm sorry, Charles with the science. So I have a few questions. I'm going to start with Lindsey. Lindsey's going to start with the first question. You supply not only the industry but the government with our community with stats. Could you share with our viewers the best way to utilize those stats when it comes to people outside our circle? X, formerly known as Twitter, can't be our only outlet. Did somebody just jump in? Oh, there, Phillip. Yeah, it can't be our only outlet. Where should we be sharing this information? And just kind of give us some ideas outside of Twitter, because I think we're kind of stuck in Twitter.
Okay, first and foremost, figure out if you're in the States and actually in other countries where you're able to easily, get access to your lawmakers. Get your Andy freaking Dufresne on. You need to start harassing these people. Right now they're getting emails all the time from the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, the Truth Initiative, all these little freaking kids or whatnot sitting here saying, hey, please ban these. If you go to these hearings, you're getting 16 years old. The perfect example was last Friday in Washington State, where it was this little kid and his freaking mommy, okay? It was there holding his hand and everything. And the lawmaker asked him a question, and even this little kid gave an anecdote, okay? I never see any of these kids that are addicted, coming up saying, please ban this because I'm so addicted to it. They're like, if you ever saw Recess, they're like that little hall monitor kid that's narking on everybody and stuff, and just these anecdotes. But I've been sitting here saying it. When I came into the, vaping space, I did come from working with state lawmakers. I was their staffer. I was the one who was answering the emails. I did not know anything about vaping in 2016. I remember being like, well, I can tell you during the state legislative time, you might not think you're tobacco, but to us, you're going to be tobacco because we've got a million other bills that we're dealing with. You're just going to get into this. And but you also need to come. We're only going to pay attention to so much stuff. If you're coming back all the time, and if you watch the Shawshank Redemption, Andy Dufresne did it with getting the money for the library. It took him like 5 years, and he finally gets money, and he's like, well, I'm sending him 2 letters a week now. I think it's got to be persistency and consistent persistence, and just keeping the message simple too. These lawmakers have, so many things going on. They don't need to hear your whole story. If you're going to go write them an email, just give them a quick one. And also, they're your lawmakers. Treat them like you treat your dentist or your doctor. Send them, a birthday card. Send them, happy holidays. It's really easy to interact with these people. So, they are, you hired them. They're supposed to be representing you. And right now, with the way that they're voting, with the way that they're getting the information, it's unfortunate.
Yeah.
So that's my thing, is to be more involved with the politicians, because and even if you're on Twitter, that's not to say that Twitter's not a powerful platform. I've seen Representative Casimiro from Rhode Island is a perfect example of that. She got, her butt handed on Twitter, when she, voted and, pushed, she thinks she was the author of this flavor ban. And she finally went and visited a vape shop and completely, circled around. So.
Yeah, I think too, and shouldn't be afraid to tag your representative in your post in Twitter. And I think we need to start doing that a little bit more as well.
And be respectful. I mean,
yeah, be respectful, but share that data not just with the Twitter world, but try to share, within your county, your state, your city. Let those individuals know what's going on as well and how you feel, because again, it comes right back to, like you just said, we voted them in. They need to understand that this is how we feel, and this is the change that we're looking for. And I think we kind of forget about about tagging them in those posts. And yeah. I know that some of you are going to say that, they don't read those. They're what do you call it? Reads them, most of the time.
Their assistants. And, yeah.
Right. And I don't disagree with that, but it's always a good idea to take a look at the last time they posted on Twitter, because
that helps.
If they've been dormant since 2020, it's unlikely that they're going to get your message. But Lindsey's right. If you live in a state, and I'm sorry about California, John, I really am, but if you live in a state that's small enough to where your representatives take a phone call, then that is absolutely effective. And if they won't take your phone call, like she said, pull full Andy Dufresne and build yourself the best prison library in the state of Maine.
Yeah. Well, too, I want to go back to your answer there also, Lindsey, but I wanted to talk about how do we get the people involved that are not part of our circle or just don't have a fight in this, where, the person is not a smoker, that could care less. How do we get them? Because we do, in a way, kind of need them to see our way. How do we share your stats with people that just don't know what's going on? Do we have to dumb it down for them, do you think? Or is it just
my stats are already dumbed down. Okay. The 50 state analysis was designed. If you go to the 50 state analysis, okay, the first thing you see are bullet points. Okay. And that came straight because of state lawmakers, okay, being like, we love bullet points. If I could write it in crayon for them, I would. All right. So state, federal, all the lawmakers, doesn't really matter what level of government that they're on. I mean, as far as people, understanding, I don't think for people who are outside don't really care about people who smoke or whatnot. As people who do smoke, who use e-cigarettes, utilize my stats to be like, I represent, I have the straight up numbers, and they're not 100% accurate, but nobody's going to get 100% accurate. Okay. Even the CDC's, flavor, the surveys that they're doing on the number of e-cigarette sales are only based out of like 50% of stores. Okay. And like that sell e-cigarette products. So, but they're not too far, and I have the same numbers that the health departments have. I'm using the CDC numbers and I'm not faking them. If I don't have the right, if it's not working with what I think it should be, it doesn't matter. These are numbers. Okay. You can't mess up numbers. Well, you can, depending on what side of the aisle you are. You'd be like, I'm one of these people. I represent this one. I represent, one of the things in the stats that I'm looking at is, what is the other people who are vaping, what is the largest age contingent? So, right now it's 25 to 44-year-olds tend to be my largest one when you're breaking them down. But so being like, I'm part of this, but also telling your story, and your flavor profile and all of that, but doing it in a concise manner.
I have a question for you, Lindsey. When you you've come across the same very anti-vaping legislator several times. For those of us that don't have the experience that you have speaking with state representatives, what would you say is indicative of that moment where you just need to move on to someone else because this person is obviously not open to new ideas?
Well, when you're testifying, they don't ask you any questions, but they'll go harass other people who don't have all the numbers and stuff. But what happens to me is that I'll go and testify. I'm doing my numbers, and then I'll have CTFK come up and be like, well, I don't know where they got their numbers. Or if the sponsor's coming in after you, the sponsor will be like, well, I don't know where they got their numbers. And I have to really be like, the effing CDC. The effing CDC is where we got them from. Like, I mean, you're acting like I'm making these things up, and you're just upset with them because they don't fit your narrative.
Right.
Well, I mean, we are dealing with people who think there's literal popcorn in our lungs. So
it's
an interesting experience. But my biggest problem is what you so rightly pointed out, is being long-winded and going into details. You lose these people pretty quickly, and well, it me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and on the numbers too, like the one I'm so really frustrated right now, especially like I knew it was going to be bad this year. Like I saw the cigarette tax revenue go down. You're talking like $1 billion in lost cigarette tax revenue between 2022 and 2023 among the states. And I did tell some of my allies about this myself, and being like, "Hey, this is going to be the year of the taxes," and they kind of blew me off last year on that one. And then they're like, "Oh, we're really surprised to see all these taxes." Like I don't know why, but I mean, there's taxes everywhere and everything. I'm surprised to still see the youth vaping epidemic being so, that they're doing so much legislation on it, even though these numbers are down and you have adult numbers that are up. I mean, if you got disposable sales that are through the freaking roof, you've got youth vaping that's down. I don't really trust Dr. Gardner. I don't really trust the like CDC's Perfus numbers, to tell you the truth, because I do not believe that it's only 7.7% of adults that were vaping in 2023. I still think it's got to be at least 10%, because who's vaping all of these disposables?
Wait, slow down. What don't you trust about the CDC report?
I don't trust their e-cigarette numbers.
So the CDC National Health Interview Survey says 7.1% of adults are vaping nicotine. That's third quarter of 2024. But the numbers for adult use are all over the map, as Lindsey and I have discussed. And is it 22 million? Is it 20 million?
I got 24 million.
19
today.
million. Actually, I believe Altria numbers more than I believe the CDC numbers. They say 19 million.
I got 20.4, and this is just adults 18 over. So pulling that population number with the 7.8% of adults that I have, 7.8% of adults that were vaping in 2023. So yeah, it comes to 20.4 million. It's an addition of 418,000 adult vapors between 2022 and 2023. I mean, that's what I got pulling my numbers. And again, they're not 100%. This isn't like 100% like, oh yeah, we got all the science and data here. I mean, I wish that we all had the funding to be able to do that and go interview everybody in America.
I think it's outrageous that cigarettes continue to kill 490,000 Americans every year. And we know every goddamn thing about teen use.
Yeah.
Like every teen who's ever looked sideways at an e-cigarette, and, lifetime ever use, past 30-day ever use, frequent use, daily use, what individual products they use, whether they're using flavors or not, everything. Yeah. And we hardly know anything about adults.
Yeah.
And that's just outrageous.
Yeah.
Well, we know that they like flavors. No. I mean, you can deduce that from the latest numbers.
Back to the question. I will just add to what Lindsey's saying is that obviously we've had a regime change, and that's not just a change in the White House. There's a new director of the CDC. There's a new FDA commissioner. I assume there's probably going to be a new director of the Center for Tobacco Products at the FDA. I have no idea what's going on with the CDC's Office on Smoking and Health. We have a new Secretary of Health and Human Services, and they all need to be educated.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is an opportunity. And as you all were saying, you need to keep it simple. They don't read long documents. They want, at most, they might read the executive summary or the bullet points. And so really, really, really boil it down and keep it simple. But
should we be focusing on those new individuals as far as getting our message to them in some way, of some sort, like whether it's emails or phone calls, or these individuals that we should be contacting and sending Lindsey's information and all these other posts that we know?
I mean, yes, I think so. I mean, I don't. Okay, how did I get into going into public speaking or, contacting people who made decisions? My brother got in trouble in high school. He got a hold of the keys. He had them for over a year. And then him and his dumb friends went in one night and they stole computers from a poor high school in, Michigan. So of course they got caught like morons and everything. And I mean, and yeah, he got, the guy got thrown in front of the, school board, and he got expelled. And before that happened, I wrote a letter to every single teacher. I think I wrote it to the counselors, the principals, everybody on the school board, because I was just adamant. I was like, yeah, give him a 2-week suspension, put this on his record, but do not kick him out of school because it doesn't work, And I was right. It was 3 of them got in trouble. My parents were on him, so he graduated on time with his class, even though he was out of school for a whole year. And then, the other 2 kids he got in trouble with, they never got their high school diploma or any of that stuff. But that was my first foray into writing letters and trying to make a statement to people that have power. And so, there's never anything wrong with contacting, public officials, especially unelected bureaucrats who are getting paid for by your tax dollars.
Yeah.
You are a good sister.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing.
Yes,
Well, he's a good brother, but it was when I realized it about last year that because I live across the street from him now, so I mean we were the bad kids, growing up and everything.
No, you did everything right, and after that, it's kind of up to your brother what he does with your hard work and dedication. And thankfully, it sounds like he took the note and made the right decisions.
I hasn't been arrested since then, so everything's good.
Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. I wanted to talk to a question for Charles. Charles, as far as THR, how do we explain to this new administration that's coming into office the importance of whether it's a disposable, whether it's an open system, whether it's patches, gums, whatever it is, it's all THR and it needs to be let into the system. So how do we go about that, teaching them that?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot about that. And as Lindsey knows, I mean, the numbers are there and from a variety of different surveys. And as she was saying, as Lindsey was saying, adult use numbers have gone up. That includes adult use of disposables. They have really gone up. And you can see it. That begins immediately after the Trump administration ordered the FDA to prohibit flavored pod-based vapes. So that's February 2020, and sales of flavored disposables skyrockets after that. And the narrative that the anti-vapors, harm reduction deniers are spinning, including at the CDC's Office on Smoking and Health, in collaboration with the Truth Initiative, is that those disposables are that increase in disposable sales is all going to teens. But if you look at the numbers, that's not the case at all. Yeah. Because not only teen use has gone obviously way down, it's down 70% since 2019, it's down, I think, 56% since 2020. That includes teen use of flavored disposables. That's gone down. And with the latest National Youth Tobacco Survey, it actually shows teen use. So among all teens who vape, the fraction who were using disposables went from 66% in 2023 to 55% in 2024. So even the fraction of the total of vapors, which is also going down, dropped. And so, this
is looking at sales,
such a false narrative being spun that these are going to, to lie and say these are kid friendly, obviously because they're kid friendly. No, they're adult friendly, clearly, because adult use is skyrocketing.
Right. Charles, do you think that they're starting to parrot themselves literally to the point where people that they sound so ridiculous, and their credibility is crumbling like a goddamn Greek statue? It's just I'm noticing there's a point now, and we may be living through.
Credibility is not crumbling. I didn't know. If you look at all the bills going on right now and all the state lawmakers who have taken all this misinformation that are still running and wasting taxpayers' time.
Actually, that's a point I was going to, let me finish. The thing about, let me finish. The American Lung Association is what I was actually referring to. State lawmakers, who are, it sounds like a conspiracy theory, but doing Altria Reynolds bidding, you're not going to be able to change their minds. And some of them will tell you straight up, yeah, I'm representing the tobacco companies. So whatever the case is, but I do think that some, the American Lung Association, for example, you have people that have nothing to do with tobacco, anything, harm reduction, seeing these posts, and people with huge followings that we don't really interact with, taking a look at that and voting on these notes, which is indeed something that does matter to me. Whether or not people see the notes on Twitter, the fact that you have them coming so fast means that people who have many followers and don't necessarily vote on this issue, it means that people who have different backgrounds and very different kinds of issues that they care about are actually voting yes. The American Lung Association is lying their ass off. And that's not a bad thing.
So, yeah, we all need to keep in mind that most of the people we interact with, they're not bad people, as Skip will remind us. They're misinformed people.
Misinformed.
There are only two possibilities. You're either misinformed or you're deliberately misrepresenting the truth, by which I mean lying.
When you say people, you mean these non-government.
So anyone at the, in a state legislature, in even actually most of the people working at the Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, they believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
Right. And
I know they believe in their mission, but I also think that they will say anything up to and including just completely fabricated nonsense to obtain that end.
Yeah, they got to keep their money train coming. That's their job.
But you're right, Charles. I think that they believe that their cause is noble, to where just repeating the same nonsense and not actually listening to any new nonsense is justified in their mind.
Well, sadly, they have their echo chamber, and we have ours. We have ours too.
Yeah. So that's the point of this show: is how do we get into their echo chamber and get some of those people back on over to our side to start listening and seeing and paying attention to our science, our stats.
Don't ask me. They blocked me in like 2020 with the Golden Oldies video. So
me too. Yeah.
And they, I go and testify, and they're like trying to debunk my stats and everything, even though you go compare my analysis, and we got the same percentage of adults who smoke and vape. We're using the same numbers. So.
Can the Truth Initiative block somebody? Because isn't that sort of government funded?
CTFK blocked me.
They can.
Yeah.
Truth Initiative is a private foundation. They can do whatever they want.
They do what they want. Yeah.
Do they get our tax dollars to function?
I think the real cost is the only one that is actually receiving user fees or actually buy a product user fees.
MSA, yeah, which that's not tax dollars. That's people who smoke dollars.
You three down there in the bottom, do you have a question on the topic that we're talking about that you'd like to ask Lindsey or Sir Charles? Speak up or forever hold your peace.
Well, I just don't know that tweeting at Doge about numbers is going to help, because it doesn't look like they're very good adding them up. Let me see. What else?
Well, personally, I don't have a lot of faith in the administration. There's going to be a big, Trump has already indicated that he's a big fan of states' rights. Okay. Especially when you look at like social issues and everything. So I don't have any faith if he does something with the FDA or whatnot and stuff that it's going to make any difference. And if anything, I think one of the reasons why this year is so bad with the flavor bans is the fact of that Trump, is that administration being up there with the FDA, that you're probably, I don't think anything's going to happen to the FDA. I don't think SCOTUS is going to rule in our favor. I really don't. I didn't think that. I'm not a constitutional lawyer, but I just never thought that the argument was sound enough If you look at the TCA, Congress did give FDA very, very broad authority to decide their own rules and regulations. There was no overstepping. They did not, this is what Congress gave them. Trump also cannot come in here and go change that act. It would only take Congress to actually, and I've been saying for years to, screw it, dismantle the whole completely, the TCA, just get rid of all of it. But there's a big fear that it could be worse than what it is now, which I don't know if that's the case. Since 2015, in 10 years, you've had only 76 products that have been authorized using the pre-market tobacco application, that pathway, versus in 2023, you had 666 combustible cigarette products, authorized in that year alone using the SC pathway, and then all of these other weird pathways just because of the way that it's all the language and, bring in a archaic, products market, so and I don't think Trump really understands harm reduction in that sense either. And I think he's getting a lot of competing information with the people who are interacting with them, with the ones who are the ones who are paying to play. You don't get photo ops with Trump and going to Mar-a-Lago unless you're cutting a freaking check. Welcome to Politics 101.
Yeah. Well, I am also worried about that same thing because he is so much about pro-state, letting the states make those decisions. And I'm kind of worried about him going down that rabbit hole with vaping because, he's already looking at California's done it and so many other states are already set up for it and trying to interfere with that whole thing. I just don't, I hope he doesn't go down that rabbit hole, but I can see him saying, let's let the states make this decision on whether or not they want to continue having flavors with vapes. So.
Well, because he doesn't want to be responsible for not saving flavor vaping. Yeah. Actually, I don't understand anything about why anyone would invest their dreams and hopes on a one-off Trump tweet. It's crazy. But the thing that I would say is Joe Gicha made an interesting point the other day about whether or not Brian King is someone we want gone or someone that may be in a position to maybe continue in a way that's helpful. I'm not going to say whether or not.
My only thing about Brian King is I'm going to say this to everybody who's watching. Quit making fun of him because of who the hell he wants to sleep with. Oh my God. I
have no idea. Does he
want to sleep with me still? Really?
Does he have a chart?
No, I've heard so much vitriol since Trump got elected. I've heard way too much about his sexuality.
What? I haven't seen any of that.
Seen it? I haven't either.
Spill, sister, spill it.
He likes, he's got a husband.
Well,
I knew that, but
I've seen.
Oh, you mean the fact that he's gay?
Yeah, we don't care.
I don't care.
Vaping advocates are making fun of him for being gay. Yes. Knock that shit off now.
Yeah.
Thank you. And who cares? I mean, dude, really, if you want to go, bang an alien, knock yourself out. I really don't care.
Yeah.
All right.
For furries or whatever.
Behind closed doors, please.
Yeah, stay out of the parks.
That's all I care about. I don't care.
So we have some things that are really significantly different this year, including the fact that our new Secretary of Health and Human Services uses nicotine.
Right.
Unquestionably, uses nicotine pouches.
Yeah.
Right.
And, we've got a big changeover. I've actually met Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
Oh, cool.
Shook his hand and chatted with him. My ex-wife used to work for him for one of his nonprofits. And it's
nice.
Water, environmental stuff. And so I've been trying to think about how do we reach him? Because the other thing that's changed more broadly is something I never saw coming, which is that a lot of the efforts to prohibit nicotine pouches have hit a wall of fury, especially from conservatives or people in red states or however you want to define it. So there really is a strong contingency of people out there, adults who are using those kind of products, and it's a harm reduction product. So It's all really good.
Yeah, I think we need to speak to the Zen users out there about perhaps getting the band together, because a lot of nicotine pouch people who are vocal about nicotine pouches are equally vocal about how much they despise vaping. It's kind of strange.
On that note, what I've been finding is that, so I'm not just on X or Twitter, but I'm obviously I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. I'm increasingly active on our subjects, and on Blue Sky, and on Truth Social. And when you search in all of those platforms for the two words nicotine and nootropic, there's a whole nother conversation going on out there.
That's an interesting question. That's an interesting point. Have you seen? I'm sorry, you are on Truth Social now. Have you seen any feedback that would make you think that it's? That's an interesting point. I'm curious how you are received on that platform.
Well, on the internet, nobody knows you're a dog, right? So I'm just there and making an observation here and there, trying not to piss people off.
No, not you personally, but your messaging on tobacco harm reduction.
Yeah, I mean it's mostly falling on deaf ears, because there's very little discussion on Truth Social about e-cigarettes or youth vaping or teen vaping or the things I usually search for. But there's a lot of discussion about nicotine as a nootropic.
Really?
And the same is true on the other platforms.
I haven't seen a lot of
that's a whole community of biohackers out there that are open to discussion about things that we care about too.
Yeah.
I mean, we know it's a nootropic.
Yeah.
And some of us, like I'm just praise the community of safer nicotine advocates who are all self-taught, and some of them to the level where they can have a conversation with the country's top experts.
Someone like you.
Actually, everybody is self-taught in the end, right?
Yeah. Well, let me ask
after your name.
Yeah. Let me ask Lindsey my next question here. And that's, so I've been told sometimes I live in fantasy land here, but I wanted to ask you and Charles, how do we get in the 24-hour news cycle? How do we get our message in there? What do we need to do as a community?
Hire a good PR firm. I would say you're insane. This is where I'm going to get in some trouble, but I don't really care, because you know what? It's not the first year I've been sitting here saying this. I would like it where we all were communicating more amongst ourselves, to having the same messaging. I mean, when you think about youth developing brain, you're still hearing that. You're still hearing about popcorn lung. You don't really hear, I will say that I don't hear a lot about vaping lung injuries from the opponents, from, the other side, as much as I hear from it from on our side. And I've told people numerous times, out of sight, out of mind. Do not even bring this up. There's no point in getting into the nuances of this being illicit ones, unless you're going to bring up the fact that this was illicit products that caused this, and what you're doing now is just making everything completely unregulated. But I mean, imagine a world where Truth Initiative and Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids and a Lung Association and a Heart Association, that they didn't even, communicate, let alone coordinate with each other. I mean, we got so many pro-whatever groups that are just like, with competing, that they're the Jesus of vaping. That it's almost like watching. It's almost like a religion thing going on. Like we got the Baptists and the Catholics, and they all believe in Jesus. And I mean, it's just a question of how important he is or whatnot and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, and
those sons of Abraham, boy, they're the worst, man.
I mean, I know. They're all Christians here. Okay?
You ever had gefilte fish? It's violent.
It's all. I mean, yeah. But I know Phillip. I know you're Jewish or whatnot and stuff. Now this is like having the Baptist versus the the non-denominational versus all whatever. They all still believe in Jesus. Way too confusing, and also. This is why the message is lost upon the policymakers, that they don't understand it. There's competing messages. when it's technically everybody's saying the same thing. They're just not saying it in the same way.
Yeah.
And if you want to get the 24 news hour system, yeah, you got to start saying the same message. You got to figure out one message that's going to be like, boom, that they can take like wildfire. Did you ever watch House of Cards? You know, when they're going against
the BBC version or the nonsense that
the Kevin Spacey version. Yes, okay, but they have one in the beginning of it when he's going against the teachers unions, and he's like, oh, call it disorganized labor or whatever is the thing, and it was Claire who came up with this, and all the politicians started sitting there saying every time they were getting interviewed, though, this is starting to look like disorganized labor.
Yeah. Were you surprised that we didn't make the news cycle even with the Supreme Court hearing?
No, not at all. I mean, not even a blurb. Not even a blurb. Oh, not even. I mean, I listen to. I know I'm going to lose my Republican hat because I listen to NPR Morning Edition. You know, with Steve Inskeep in the morning and kind of get me like, oh, hey, what's going on in the world? You know, and whenever they do talk about vaping, they are, you know, only interviewing the pro people or the anti people. You know, and maybe back in like 2019, Greg Conley used to get on there and whatnot. But I mean, again, you got to it's a lot of PR stuff for you to get out there, and it's a lot of pay to play. It's not. Journalism is no longer about reporting the news as much as it's reporting some narrative.
Mm-hmm.
I believe their last bit on vaping was actually encouraging comparatively.
So that was on Science Friday, right?
You're right. That is actually somewhat different.
Well, it's still NPR, but they do it off a different. You know, they're not all the wholly, you know, owned by NPR. They got their own actual station. Yeah.
But I think that's and there was a good piece in the New York Times. So like there are hints that some journalists are starting to go, wait a minute, what's going on here? And that's a little ember that we need to put, you know, add more oxygen to.
Blow on that sucker, yes.
Yeah.
Michelle, you
we
got
gotta
something?
talk more about the adults too. I mean, like I don't even like talking about like. I started talking during the youth series through IWF because it's like, why the hell is TPA talking about youth vaping? You know, we can talk about the taxes and adult vaping and stuff. And I mean, that was the one thing with Golden Oldies was, you know, I envisioned what we wanted to do was like, get enough funding to get like 20 people to come to the state capitol that are all average age 65. And if you know me, I hate all the old people and Social Security, but not when it comes to this stuff. But have them run through a committee hearing and just doing it really simple. My name is, I'm this years old. I smoked for this many years. I quit smoking this many years ago. I'm vaping this flavor. Wave around your device. Boom, boom, boom. And I know I've talked to lawmakers about it. Like that would be effective. It'd be more effective than that little kid that's stammering through his freaking speech and, oh, way to go. Good job. No, F this kid. Sorry.
So, and the numbers don't lie.
Yeah,
right? Adult use utterly dwarfs teen use.
Yeah.
I just did the numbers today. For everyone, kid vaping.
A phrase I'm using often now is the whole focus on teens is the tail that wags the dog. Like the big story is what's happening with adults, and this is a massive shift, you know, ongoing right now of product substitution. Actually, I don't know if any of you saw the Altria report that just came out in the graphs. I think Juka shared them, and like, wow, this is like a huge change, and they're reporting it to their investors, but we know it because we, you know, Lindsey and I and others look at the government surveys. It's huge, and of course it's rarely reported. So that's something that we need to play up. I mean, there's the Golden Oldies, by the way, Lindsey, was brilliant.
I love it.
The original and still the best.
I'm always taking videos, guys. Okay, especially when I want to get done looking at freaking numbers. It's nice to go sit here and edit. Just stay on freaking script if you're doing it, okay? And the worst thing I have to do is you give me a 10-minute video, and it's like that's not what I asked for.
Yeah, I have to edit mine. I think it's been 4 years. I need to do another one. But here, I have a question for both of you. It sounds to me like your message to advocates is don't waste so much time correcting the youth epidemic outlets, at least especially the ones that are just howling at the moon, that are small, that are possibly just shells or whatever, doing nothing. Spend your time answering the youth problem with the adult success.
Yeah, I'd say harass your lawmaker.
Right.
It's easy. Go and Google who is my lawmaker, and you're gonna have to Google who's my state lawmaker, who is my federal lawmaker, and take it once a week. Send them a freaking email, and at this point, dude, it's gonna take a while. You're gonna get basic responses or whatnot. It's gonna be a staffer that reads it or whatnot. Any opportunity that you might get to go run into your lawmaker. I mean, summer is going to be coming sooner rather than later, thank God. State fairs, you can always run into your lawmaker there, and they're there. It's not like a dinner that you have to go pay to show up at or whatnot. I mean, they have to make themselves accessible to you. I mean, they are your lawmakers. But I mean, those are the people who are making the decisions. The media is spinning a narrative. At the end of the day, who's going to affect your access to whether you have these products or not are the state lawmakers voting on these bills.
And the fact that your message to the lawmaker is probably going to be read by a 20-something kid who's their staffer, it's actually a good thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of them are vaping.
Yeah, a lot of them are.
Exactly.
Or using nicotine pouches or whatever. So it's falling on maybe more open ears.
Greg mentioned there was a bunch of legislation on the docket for or against vaping this next couple of weeks. What states are we looking at that do not have registry bills in place that are pending? Do you know?
Everyone that doesn't have one, pretty much.
And that is literally coming up in the first part of the session.
All right, what states have preemption or the vape directory bills? Give me a second. I've got a spreadsheet. You know that I've got spreadsheets for days.
No way.
And I have them all so I can figure it out.
Just say if you don't have one, you don't want one.
Yeah.
All right, vape directory. So Arizona, Hawaii, Indiana, Kentucky, Mississippi, Missouri, New Mexico, New York, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Washington, and Wyoming.
So we need to call all of those big tobacco protection bills.
Yeah.
For starters.
I got somebody at my door. I'll be right back.
And to point out that the big tobacco and the anti-vapors are singing the same tune on those registry bills right now. And those are very strange bedfellows.
If you had 20 seconds to speak.
When you've got me quoting American Lung Association in my testimony, because I went last year, it took about a year and a half for me to convince my boss for me to go publicly against it. And we got it, and I went to Florida, and I went in person to go testify. And the bill sponsor comes up because I sat there and quoted like American Lung Association. I quoted what they had said in other states last year. Bill sponsor's like, he called me that lady and everything. And he's like, those organizations never talk to me and everything. I was so pissed off at this guy. I was just like, what do you mean that lady, dude? You're like 50 years older than me and everything. But they got really pissy about that one. And especially that was a bill sponsor that was kind of like attacking my testimony because when you have me citing American Lung Association, there is something really wrong. As you said, very interesting bedfellows at this time. I mean, times of war, though, make for strange bedfellows. So
if you didn't see it firsthand, you would think it was science fiction. You really would.
This is.
And I get what they're doing, though. I mean, Dr. Gardner, you have to agree. Like, I understand it is completely unfair. I'm still going to call you. I've been hanging out with too many state lawmakers and everything. We interviewed Representative Marshall on Saturday. The video just came up today, actually, for our Across the Pond podcast at TPA. And I'm just into calling people by their formal name, okay? If I was a Dr. Lindsey, I'd be telling you guys to call me that.
Wait, you're not a doctor?
Charles.
You're not a doctor?
Or Chauncey?
No, I'm not. No, I'm writing a bachelor's degree. But when it comes to the vape directory bills, I have been sitting there saying, I mean, it was unfair. It's unfair for these 34 e-cigarette products that have gotten FDA authorization, that spent billions of dollars losing their market share to technically illegal products that didn't even a lot of these disposables didn't even file a PMTA. Let alone spent billions of dollars on it. But also, it's at the same time, it's unfair to deny adults access to products that have actually helped them quit smoking. It's what I call the regulatory catch-22.
Yeah. Well, by the time they're finished suing each other, there won't be any products left. Juul's taking the Altria's Enjoy Ace off the market, at least last I checked. So what the hell? I mean, yes, no one. And let's face it, the Ace is a great product, but it still has a micro USB charging port. That's problematic. So what I'm trying to say is, I would like to ask you both something important. I'm going to shut the hell up. If you have 30 seconds, your state is facing a registry bill. It's backed by whoever. You have 30 seconds to speak to your lawmakers, in your state, in Mississippi. Imagine that. 30 seconds. What do you want to say? What are the most important things to say to them, assuming they're just like Alabama? Because
you want to go first, Charles?
Sure. So when I've spoken with state legislators, I kind of try to gauge their reaction. One of the things I just said offhand, which I thought had the most effect because I could see the look on their faces, was, why are you considering this bill now and not 10 years ago when nicotine vaping was twice?
It just lost power anyway.
Was twice as high as it is now.
Michelle, you're upside down. I'm sorry, you're vertical.
Sideways. Come on, guys.
That happens to me on Friday night.
But I think the 3-minute rule is typically in effect across all these states, and if at all possible, I don't know if I can actually virtually say a thing in Mississippi living in Alabama, but God knows I'll try.
Yeah, you can. I'd say all the time. What are you talking about? They never deny me at anything. I mean, and you can also, when you sign up for bills too, what I always do is, because I work at a think tank or whatnot. So if they give you, you're either for, against, or you can in some states put other or just informational. Yeah. So when I go and testify, I'm always doing informational. Until, one time, Nick Orlando with the Florida Smoke Freeze had me, go on the record against it but that's considered real lobbying. If I can do informational, it's not considered. I'm just giving them information. I'm educating them. Don't even get me started on the fourth branch of government. Okay. I'm not the proudest of it myself. All right. So
no, but the other thing, Phillip, is we really need to hammer home the issue of 490,000 deaths every year primarily from cigarettes, and 100% of those deaths are among adults.
Yep.
And if you pass this registry bill, you are going to send thousands of your citizens back to smoking cigarettes. And so this is like a mass murder bill. And
I'm pretty sure Mississippi, Lindsey, I'm sure you can tell me just how many people are smoking in Mississippi. It ain't good. It's not Louisiana, but I think it's right there.
Another issue is the smoking rates are much higher in red states than they are in blue states.
Mm-hmm.
And in the South, yeah.
These days, that's something to point out.
Yeah, I think
South, and also in places where you have the larger indigenous populations as well. When you have reservations on there. My 30 seconds on the registry bills would just be the fact that the PMTA process is flawed. Now you're having states enforce it, where states are already losing money out to smoking-related illnesses. Youth vaping is down. There's proliferation of products, and you're also going to lose tax revenue. I mean, even if you don't have an excise tax in place already in this, you're still going to have a sales tax in place on these products. And also, it doesn't matter. I mean, we've already seen, you can go push this out. You can go sit here and have these enforce it. You're still going to have the underground market. That's just not going to go away. Good luck. We can't put the genie back in the bottle. So, I mean, you might as well regulate it. But I mean, I'm okay with I used to be very anti-disposables. I'll admit that one. Like I think I'm still kind of like in the middle on this one, but
Same here.
I'll go to my store, you know, my minority owned store that I'm usually picking up beer there. But I ask them how many people that have, you know, quit smoking that are using these products. And I'm not throwing the vape shop underneath the bus, but I still think if we were going to start comparing numbers over the past 2 years, that disposables have probably led to a greater contribution and a greater decline in smoking rates, just because they're easily accessible. So, and also but you're also having people that are going. I mean, I remember back when I first started when people were still trying to be pure, you know, back in like 2018 and everything. Like, oh, I'm not going to sell cigarettes, and it's like, why wouldn't you sell cigarettes? This is how you're going to get the people to switch over. I mean, get the people who are smoking to come in, buy their cigarettes, and then, you know, educate them about a safer alternative. If I was going to open up a vape shop, I'd be opening up a total smoke shop. I'd be like buying, like getting foreign cigarettes in there and being like specialty cigarettes.
So I'm like,
I find some cloves.
Cloves. Oh,
I also initially
I would have gotten behind that when I was 20.
I hated the idea of these disposables when when they really started picking up. But I've come around on that. I talk to people that I see randomly vaping on the street and say, you know, excuse me, do you mind if I ask you a few questions, and and they're all using disposables. And by the way, in like 8 years here in New York City, I've never seen a teen vaping ever.
Yeah, I have never seen one here in Modesto. I started with the disposable.
Because you're an old person. You're an
old guy. Well, I started with the disposables because I started hiking, and I was like, do I take a $250 mod on a hike? And I was like, no, because I'm going to drop it. I'm going to break it. And then I started looking around, and I started seeing the disposables, and I said, okay, do I care if I break a $25 disposable? No. So I started buying them when I go on my hikes, and then I would throw them in my glove box because I would never use them again. But I'm catching myself using them again a lot more than I am with my open systems. But for me,
I like some of the disposable flavors, actually.
Yeah.
So.
And like, for example, this is becoming a little more environmentally responsible. This thing has a refill instead of this whole massive thing. This has like 30,000 puffs, and instead of buying a new battery, you buy a new cartridge. So what in fact these registry bills do, it does, I mean, I hate to sound like Clive Bates, but it does stifle innovation in a big, huge way. And yes, at the end of the day, people are smoking in Alabama. I don't know if we're still at 17%, but it's ridiculous.
Oh, you're not at 17%. Oh God, no.
We were.
You're not yet. Let me see. Let me go to the numbers. And you'll have Alabama numbers because I have 15 states that didn't.
Lindsay, give us the number. What is it?
I had 15 states that didn't participate in the Youth Risk Behavior Survey. So, and I got a whole section on my analysis that's all youth numbers or whatnot, state-specific ones. So I'm going to use the NYTS. But actually, I did start out your numbers. You're at 14.2% for adults that were smoking.
What year?
Which is... It's 2023, and it's actually it's an 8.
Pretty high.
It's come down significantly. I mean, and also like in 10 years in 2013, it was 21.5%, and this is all adults 18 and plus.
So most people in public health don't have their heads around this yet. But if you just look at the trend line, the decline in cigarette use and also the decline in cigarette sales in the United States is pretty linear. And
it's amazing.
And it accelerated starting about, 8-9 years ago. It really accelerated over the past 5 years. And
2016 is what I see. And my trends on the Burfest numbers, and especially among 18 to 24-year-olds, that's when it just starts dropping. And that's, what is it? That's the Juul.
Is the national average of all states somewhere around 11.5% still? Or is it
no, I mean, it's like 10%. So
that's about 11% actually.
The National Health Interview Survey is the one I use. Lindsay and I use
2022. The aggregate was somewhere around 11.
But if you just follow the trend line down, it's going to be approaching zero in less than 10 years.
Oh, you got 18 to 24-year-olds in certain states like Utah, Rhode Island. It's less than 5%. And so, and then I can't wait for the next 5 years of looking at these numbers, because you're going to start seeing it among the next one up, the 25 to 35-year-olds, and start seeing them. And I mean, that's the one thing that really upsets me with American tobacco companies. I mean, if you look at these tobacco companies and what they're doing as far as bringing new products out, novel, safer alternative, like safer, tobacco products out to market in the States, because the FDA is like stifled, innovation and everything. But also, I mean, if you look at the way that they started, when they started purchasing, products, they all thought vaping was kind of a gimmick. Well, no, you now have to see the light, because you have a whole generation that's not ever going to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Unless you're only having cigarettes be available. But I still don't even see that. Even, you had some increases immediately in San Francisco and in Massachusetts, but those have gone back down still. 18 to 24-year-olds went back down in Massachusetts. Because it's still going to be out there, and the black market is still going to be out there.
Yeah.
So coming back to disposables, I want to make a really strong point here that because I didn't see this coming until I stumbled upon. Well, first of all, talking to Granny Louisa who lives in the UK. Does that sound familiar to you guys? Lovely woman who's worked in smoking cessation clinics. She hammers at this point all the time. There are people who are disabled, who are elderly, who don't have the physical dexterity to refill a vape, or even to use a pod-based vape. So, I mean, people with physical disabilities.
Yeah. And ideally, vaping should be as simple as lighting a cigarette. Truly,
it should be.
There's an Americans with Disabilities Act issue here, and so Microsoft commissioned a study in 2023 that because they wanted to know, what could we do? How many of our customers out there have dexterity problems? Unable.
A lot of them.
It's quite shocking. So 12% of American adults have severe dexterity problems, and that includes people with actual disabilities and the elderly and some people who are mentally disabled. And that's a huge number. So if 26 million people are smoking cigarettes, what's 12% of 26 million? It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so disposables are actually critical for people with dexterity issues.
But we said the same thing about pods.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean,
I
heard the same argument. No, it's not different. I mean, the pod's not that hard. I mean, I get it. Not every single person, but when you're looking at a lot of the dexterity, I mean, I've heard that argument before they banned pods. Okay.
Well, how is this not a pod?
Well, I was about to say, Philip, that's like a weird way back into the
that's
like pre-filled pods, okay? And I mean,
this is a pod. Well, this is the device.
Here's my beef with
because
this.
Even lighting a cigarette, you still have to use that. So again, the lighting a cigarette, you're using this, or you're using a match or whatnot. A pre-filled pod's the same.
Or if you're a gentleman,
unlike a Juul pod, this has its own little 200 milliamp hour battery.
But y'all don't. I've got friends that don't drive anymore because they have issues, and they don't have relatives that are close. They don't have a car, so they rely on their feet, and they don't do bicycles because they're elderly. Yeah. So how are they supposed to even go get a pod when they need one?
And we've got to ban online sales, of course.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very hard for them. And when they can't.
That ban. I know I've gotten around that ban.
Well, this is the only beef I have with the disposables.
Michelle, are you talking about just access in terms of mail?
Hold on, Phillip. Okay. The only beef I have with the disposables is the fact someone like me that has worked his ass off to get from 22 down to 3, and now I'm finding myself back at 50. And I'm trying to work my way back down again. I feel like I'm restarting. So that's my only beef is why are we now? I admit it. I was buying them because I was going hiking and I didn't want to damage or ruin my mods. Right. But switching over and going back over to these disposables, we got a whole generation of vapors that have really worked hard to get down to 3. And now they find themselves back at 50 again. And I'll hit the 3 right now. and I feel like I got nothing from it.
Right.
Absolutely nothing from it. So I catch myself, and now what I'm doing is I have both. So I'm trying to get myself back to 3 and start to use these a little less. And what I do is I use the disposable when I'm at work because I only have a 15-minute break. So the 3 is not going to get me by. So that's what
I got a recommendation for you, John.
Yeah.
I know Pod Juice does a 35 nip salt. So yeah, just get a refillable pod and use that, because I know I was able to go from their 50 to the 35, and it wasn't that big of a difference at all.
Good point.
Yeah.
John, are you concerned mostly about the cost?
Not the cost, that just the fact that we have so many of us that started 11 years ago that have done the work to get themselves down to those low numbers, some down to 1.5. And
titration,
and now I'm noticing that generation is like, everyone's got like Charles was saying, everybody I see now is carrying a disposable, and these were the same guys that I taught how to make a coil. I taught how to wick an RDA, and now it's just like, I could go get this, I'm good. And I just feel like you're just
John. You sound like somebody who believes that you have to punish yourself to quit smoking. Is that fact?
No, I don't feel that. I feel like I worked myself to that point where I almost could have just kind of walked away and said, I don't need this product anymore. And now I find myself back to where I was in 2011, 2012, 2018. And for me, I feel like there's a whole generation that is just remedicating themselves with nicotine. And that's where I'm getting.
But 50 salt equates to 25 in freebase, right? That's your starting point. So if you really want to mess around and get down quicker and quicker, just use hybrid nicotines, ones that are made up of both salt and freebase. You'll drop very quickly back to where you want to get to.
Yeah, get that from a disposable.
It's not that hard.
Mm.
You can't in a disposable, but a refillable pod system.
And that's the other problem. Disposables don't offer an exit route, and that's my other beef.
No. You're right.
That has to do with titration more than anything else.
Yeah.
Right?
Did this
chemistry side of it's titration. Simple.
Did this happen to coincide with you having to go back to work and watch people, raid car lots? Just asking because.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are a lot of young people that I work with that are in their 20s, and I am shocked to hear each and every one of them say vaping's bad for them. That they don't smoke, but they also say vaping. They don't want to vape. They don't want to smoke. They just think both products aren't good for. And to me, that's great, because I hear all these studies where everyone's being peer pressured into vaping or trying this or trying that, or cigarette, and hearing a bunch of 21-year-olds say, I don't want to vape. I don't want to smoke. I think it's great. I think it's great. I don't appreciate them saying it's bad for them. So I do educate those younger kids, and I do let them know that if they were going to choose one of these two things, that I would choose vaping over smoking every single time.
I congratulate them, and I say that's great. And let's make sure that adults who still smoke have access to these.
Have access. That's right.
So, John, I don't want you to get Alzheimer's disease.
I hope I don't.
I don't want you to get more dementia than you already have.
I have a little. I can guarantee you.
Maybe we all do.
Maybe the higher nicotine is a good thing.
I'll just keep feeding that. I'll feed that brain. Yeah.
I agree.
Very serious.
Hold on. Can I sit there and say something to Robert Lawyer's comment earlier about disposables? The people who use disposables aren't dedicated to the cause. I don't really. What do you mean the cause? Because I'm sorry. I'm just going to sit here and say it. I'm not going to go into the details. There's been people who've been paid by the cause that weren't really freaking dedicated to it. Okay. So I don't really care about. The only thing that I care about is whether people, at some point too, and I've talked to people in the big tobacco spaces about this one, and we're talking about the eradication of smoking, and 20 years from now, it won't be about tobacco harm reduction anymore. It won't be about moving people over from cigarettes because people aren't using cigarettes. So that is a reckoning that's going to have to come. What is it going to be about now? I mean, mine's still going to be like, well, there should be safer access to cigarettes. But I still fight for the people who smoke, okay? Like, you know, I mean, what, we're going to keep raping them with cigarette taxes and everything when it's the poor people who are the only ones who are smoking anymore?
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing I say. I'm not a rabid ex-smoker running around pointing my finger at people who are still smoking, nor am I someone who's going to run around and judge people who are, you know, puffing on this great, big, colorful, you know, touchscreen disposable and say you're not helping the cause, because that's ridiculous. We are where we are. You have to be in this because it's important to you, and what's important to other people really is of no consequence. So let's just, you know, not even bother talking about it, to be honest.
And you're part of the cause anyways. If you're a person, if you quit smoking using the disposable, you are part of the evidence that is, you know, that shows that the efficacy of these products not being effective, you know, smoking cessation aids. So
I still think there's like a group of people that are still out there that, even though they've seen all the legislation that's gone through, they still believe they can't stop it. And that's the group, I think, that's not really that dedicated to trying to save this, because they still think in their head, oh, it's never.
Hey, I've got a little bit of hope right now this year. Okay, like, so from I can see from state legislation. So, I mean, Hawaii went crazy. Hawaii's got about 20 freaking pieces of legislation. A lot of them are just like repetitive stuff. They do that every year. Their bills really haven't gone anywhere. They've been through like a couple of them have gone through. I think the preemption bills have gone through a couple of committees, because they usually go through about 3 committees before they even get to the floor and everything. And so it's almost like they're really moving. From what I understand too, that Washington State's flavor ban's not going to really get pushed forward. But I'm still surprised that I haven't seen Minnesota hasn't dropped a flavor ban yet. Maine hasn't dropped it yet. Maryland hasn't dropped one yet. Neither has Vermont. All the usual suspects. I know Minnesota has some issue going on with, they don't know who's in the majority or the minority in the legislature right now or something. So there is some hope there. The biggest threat for vapors right now, are going to be those, those registry bills, registry directory bills or whatnot. Even those, they're so hodgepodge. If you go look at Louisiana, so Louisiana's like one of the first states that has, you know, has one that they're enforcing it. You go to the list of it, there's about 500 products on that list, and some of them are open source e-liquid. So like Vape-Tasia, because if it's the way that they've written it, if you've got a pending PMTA, you can still legally sell these products in this given state. Oklahoma is weird because I was looking through their list, and there's definitely some manufacturers that it's like, you definitely got an MDO. There's nothing pending. If you got anything going on with court too, it's going to mess it all up. So, I mean, there would be a way for these. I mean, it costs money too. I mean, at this point, and that's the one thing that fascinates me about vaping. If you look at it from the beginning of its inception in the States, remember, FDA sued to regulate this as a medical product. And it was Satera in blue or whatever that is. Satera versus whatever it was. That, you know, kind of like, you know, and this is 2 years, it got decided 2 years after FDA got authority to regulate tobacco products. And I mean, it's unfortunate that it's public health and it's taken bureaucrats and like, it's like getting a civics lesson.
Either one of you two want to discuss a little bit about Peggy's question there? Can we touch on Montana's thing? I'm not sure what's going on in Montana. You guys?
I mean, I just did a podcast with Ron Marshall, and he could tell you more. I mean, I hate to tell somebody to get off of this podcast and go watch a different one.
Hey, Lindsey. Lindsey. That's it.
I know. With Montana, so I know that he did a thing that the first bill that he put down was one that nothing would really happen until the SCOTUS case was decided. If she's talking about the lawsuit, it's suing the state to make sure that all the MSA money that they receive doesn't use you can't use it to lobby.
Okay.
So, and when, if you look at the MSA too, like there's specific things that they can use for lobbying or whatnot. And so, I mean, get with Ron Marshall. He can explain it a little bit more. He kind of just stumbled upon it one day when he was sitting at the Capitol earlier this year and stuff. But Ron's going really hard. He's going to introduce a cigarette tax. He's going to get a Democrat to go run it and everything. So, Yeah.
That MSA thing completely just baffles me, and the fact that no one's forcing some of these states to actually do what they're told to do, where I think 20% of that money is supposed to go towards harm reduction, and you see zero numbers.
It's not supposed to go towards any of that. We sued the state sued the tobacco companies because of the costs that they were spending on smoking related healthcare costs. If anything, the MSA should be going to supplemental insurance for people who smoke.
Right.
Quite honestly, I mean, that's really what, if that's the way that it's originally designed to offset the cost that the state is paying, but it's now most of the time it's going into budget coffers. It's not even supposed to go towards
road taxes.
Control. There's stuff like towards youth, to prevent youth use, but I mean, you sued the gist of why they went after the tobacco companies was you lied to us, and look at how much money we're spending on because these are killing people.
Yeah, just like the 5 cents that's supposed to go towards the state for every lottery ticket sold.
So the master settlement agreement prohibits.
We don't have a lottery because that leads to dancing.
Thank you.
Really? Well, let's go international. Bulgaria's National Assembly voted unanimously on February 12th to advance a bill that would ban sales, distribution, and advertising of all vaping products, including zero nicotine vapes. You guys hear about that?
Dude, I'm really at the state level. I mean, I'm doing some international stuff that's related to the FCTC.
I have to go international. Paul's here.
Bulgaria, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, though, Bulgaria seems like it's pretty high up there. I know Ukraine is the #1, like, Eastern European country for smuggled, tobacco products. They're all coming, it's the first country they kind of come through. Bulgaria is going to have a big smuggling problem.
Latvia, that's an absolute crime. That is.
Yeah, 197 to 0.
Well, it's just the size, the percentage of the smoking population there. It's ridiculous. I want to say it's number 3.
And I think it was the prohibition seems to be based on a fast-moving moral pan over vaping containing cannabis. So I guess that's where someone died. Some kid died.
Yeah, but again, that was cannabis. It wasn't.
Hold on. If we're going to do international, then, I mean, did you guys see we all know what's going on in Australia. I mean, Australia's situation is so bad that apparently Fiona Patton told me last year that, if you have a shop that's next to a tobacco shop, you can't even get insurance on it. They will not insure your shop or whatnot. No, Paul's here, but was it a month, last month, where you had a woman who died in the tobacco wars because arsonist, set her apartment on fire in the case of mistaken identity. Yeah. I mean, in Australia, you've got, vape prescription. I mean, they got the highest taxes in the freaking world. I mean, and then you also have the vape, the prescription only vape model and everything. And I know Colin and company just did a paper too, looking at, New Zealand smoking rates, and Australia, it's smoking rate declines and everything. So.
Oh my God.
So everything's fine down under?
Oh, yes, with all the dingoes.
Look, so far we've had over, I think we're up to almost 200 firebombings now of tobacco outlets.
Over that, aren't you? Like 240 or something.
Well, at one stage, the last time I looked at it was around the 200 barrier, but now we've got people actually dying here on the streets because of what the hell's going on. It's just gotten completely out of control, and every time we ask either the TGA or present government, no one can actually give us an answer as to what's really going on here. And if we call them out on social media, next minute, oh, you're the bad guys. You're involved in this. You know something about it that we don't know. Oh, rubbish. But the taxation here is just absolutely ludicrous. But the illegal tobacco market now, since Butler and company, and Greg Hunt for that matter, introduced this prescription model properly and did the bans on importation and everything else, the illegal tobacco market, we're actually seeing a jump now in illegal cigarette sales, because you can buy a packet of cigarettes anywhere between $7.50 and $10 on the street, like illegal, yet a registered brand here in Australia is now the cheapest price you'll find a pack for is about $50.
Damn.
Okay? So,
but that's the 20 cigarette pack, right? Or 25?
Yeah. No, just for a pack of 20s, it's $49.50 now, and
Jeez.
For 50 grams of like rolling tobacco, you need to take a mortgage out, because we're now at $167 for 50 grams of rolling tobacco.
Holy crud!
The interesting thing is, I've seen some studies that suggest that people will actually, well, maybe not take that mortgage out, but they'll spend whatever to continue smoking. And it's a little scary. And I don't know how strong those studies were or are, but let's just say that, people are setting fire to buildings to get them cheaper. So
that's $31.73 American money for a pack of 20 cigarettes. Holy shit.
Some Australians are growing tobacco in their backyards now.
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Yeah,
but
Makes sense.
They're in the right climate. They're in the right climate.
Yeah, but maturing a tobacco plant takes 11 months before you can even harvest. And then you've got another 3 to 6 months in curing. So, but now we're seeing.
That's why the South was so good at making them.
Yeah. Well, look,
I was born in Hamilton. I'm here for a reason.
I'm here. How many plants you got in your backyard, Phil?
But
I cannot confirm nor deny.
But
I'm allowed 6.
Everyone
allowed 6.
Everyone here now, it's completely out of control. I've got a guy who's in his 60s that I fish with, and he was paying $50 and $60 a packet. And I said, you got to stop this. You're smoking X amount of packets a week, so you've got nothing left of your pension. And I said, this is absolutely ridiculous. So, look,
do they even sell cartons there? Can you imagine buying a carton of cigarettes there?
Oh, don't even go there. Don't even go there.
Who was the rock star that complained about buying the carton of cigarettes?
Oh, there's been numerous rock stars actually.
Yeah, that was
come to Australia.
Then it was so damn expensive.
One was from Guns N' Roses. The other one was
it was Guns N' Roses. Yeah.
But the other one, when they toured like the Colt Billy Duffy, because he still.
But how much is his bourbon there? How much is his bottle of bourbon there? It's probably a lot cheaper than his pack of cigarettes.
Still too expensive, John. We should be able to send, at a reasonable price. I just don't understand.
Well, it depends.
It was Tommy Lee that I'm talking about.
Tommy Lee.
Tommy Lee.
In 2023, he complained about it. Yeah.
But
he
was visiting.
He was visiting. But he paid
Let me know when Mick Mars has something to say.
$99 for a pack of cigarettes. Yeah.
Well,
that's it.
Well, Paul, I remember doing the article a few months ago about the prescription plan. Are there still pharmacies that are saying no to having this prescription model in their pharmacies? Is that still going on?
Out of 130 pharmacies that were asked, how many actually sold vapes? Out of 130, I think it was 18 that only sold vapes. So there's your answer to it. They don't want any part of it. That got thrown on them. Okay. Yeah. But the key to it is that the TGA and the universities, they're telling them in the background, the AMA as well, the Australian Medical Association, and who's the other one? There's a few of these turkeys that are turning around and saying, look, we don't believe any of this rubbish. We don't want you to sell them. The pharmacy guild, like the shops that are bucking the system, they're not being looked after as well as they did before. But then you have 2 products from the tobacco industry that are being sold openly one being Vive, and the other one being, what's the other one? There's two of them. And they're being sold openly through a backdoor deal that was done with the tobacco companies to actually get them in there on the prescription model.
That's bullshit.
So, it's unbelievable.
Well, the thing that's in my head is it's not like here in the United States where we have pharmacy on just about every corner. Like here in Modesto, I'm literally less than a mile away from like 5 or 6 different pharmacies. You know, right. So they're scattered all throughout Australia. So if you only have 18, that's insane. And, you know, you have guys maybe having to travel 300 miles to go somewhere just to get his vapes. And then they're also limited, correctly? I mean, they can't buy a month's supply.
No, it depends on who actually writes your prescription. And they can only supply what is noted on that prescription. They can't substitute. There are no substitutions.
We all know Colin. We all know he has done incredible things. At least he's trying to do incredible things. Recently, I've watched a couple of addresses, a keynote presentation by James Martin, Dr. James Martin, and he's very convincing. I think he's very knowledgeable and someone who, at the very least, I find him to be an impressive speaker. And it seems like he was speaking to a crowd that was open to new policies. Well, at least a different policy than what's creating. I guess there was a 27-year-old woman that was recently killed that was obviously a part of the turf tobacco wars here. So I want to say he's working on a paper having to do with the criminal justice aspect of this issue, but also he, if you haven't seen his speech, I believe he posted it a couple of days ago. It's very good.
It's quite.
You got a link,
scary.
Phil. You can put it, if you got that link, put it in the private chat, and I'll put it in the chat.
It's quite scary what's going on here.
You want me? Where do you want me to send it? I'll put it in the private chat. I think
you are the best. You are the best.
It's absolutely scary what's going here right now, and we're just about to go to like another election, and we've got inside knowledge that if for argument's sake this election goes ahead, we're going to have someone that was probably like coming into that section that's going to be tenfold worse than what Greg Hunt was.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask you. I forgive me, but I don't know your government. So how many parties are actually involved in your government? There's a Labor Party. Is it like England?
Labor and Liberal, yeah. But then we've got
pretty much both of them are pretty much the same when it comes to vaping.
Yeah, but we've also got the Teals, which are independent. Then we've got.
Do we need to send Lindsey over there? Lindsey, do you want to go to Australia for a couple months?
No.
Yeah, maybe when state session time is, in April
during the summer.
Yeah, but it's summer here now.
Yeah, so come on, know your geography a little bit better. He's in the southern hemisphere.
Yeah, that's true.
It's summer here now.
What continent is Pakistan on, John?
Oh, Jesus!
Take it easy, guys. He's just a kid. He's just a child.
I have no idea.
Asia. It's Asia.
I can't believe y'all are talking about this. Of course, it's Asia. Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I didn't hear the question. That's what I did.
Oh yeah.
That's what I did. That's what I did in school. I didn't hear the question.
That's what they all say. I didn't hear the question.
It's in the continent of Afghanistan. Only it's Pakistan.
Pakistan? No,
Pakistan.
I'm just kidding.
Pakistan.
Questions. Oh, all right. I got a question for Sir Charles, and it's about the science and helping people. Again, I'm focusing on trying to get the people that don't vape, that don't smoke on our side. How do we get that science to them to where they can understand what's going on and why we're doing what we're doing?
So hands down, the way to approach this is, I mean, obviously, as Lindsey was saying, we're going to get to a point where nobody's smoking anymore. So we're going to be dealing with recreational use of nicotine.
Yeah.
And so we need to get out in front of that in the same way that people in the cannabis advocacy community did starting decades ago with medical marijuana. We need to start talking about therapeutic nicotine, and the potential health benefits of nicotine are just enormous. Actually, much more. I hate to say it, but more than cannabis. And so, I mean, for weight control, for preventing Parkinson's disease, probably for preventing Alzheimer's disease, aging dementias, and for reducing the symptoms of a huge variety of different neurodiversity conditions, for people with ulcerative colitis and certain like rheumatoid arthritis. Nicotine has anti-inflammatory properties. It has neuroprotective properties. We know it has nootropic, cognitive enhancing properties.
Thank you, Phil.
And so we need to really hammer at the upside, because all of those studies have been done. They've been, it's like 4 decades of studies with nicotine patches, like nicotine not patches, but nicotine gum.
Yeah.
Used by professional baseball players has been shown to significantly improve their baseball hitting stats.
They're going to ban it then. They're going to ban it. It'll be just like
well, that's interesting because nicotine is clearly a performance enhancing drug, but it's not one of the banned drugs for Olympic athletes.
Right. Yeah, because I think even the NFL and I think MLB has banned Red Bull. They cannot drink Red Bull.
Well, first of all, Red Bull tastes like shit.
Yeah, it does. Hey, it goes good with vodka.
I mean, I miss Jolt Cola so much.
But like, wait, why? It's just caffeine. Like
Jolt?
You can drink coffee, but you can't drink Red Bull?
Yeah.
It's the logic.
Well, you're right. Red Bull tastes like shit. I like Jolt, but I think they actually banned that.
Yeah.
Savages. But,
so
the one that really tastes the worst is Monster. Okay.
Yeah, Monsters. Yeah, that's straight.
Yeah, I checked out the back of one of those cans recently. Hoo-wah! I don't know. They added sugar and I don't know what 24 ounces.
I'm a Rockstar guy. I love Rockstar.
You think I'm annoying now, right?
Yeah.
Rockstar. So am I right? This is kind of a side issue, but I mean, obviously, some of these companies are going to want to mix energy drinks with alcohol.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Is that
they already? Oh, no, they already
do.
That. They did that, and they did it like. Yeah. What was it, like Four Loko? Yeah, I mean that but they got into some trouble for it because kids were having seizures or whatnot.
Have you ever heard of
I think mixing vodka with something like Pedialyte? I don't know if that actually makes a quicker.
Charles, have you heard
Pedialyte? So wait, have you heard of that to your baby?
Yeah. No, Charles. I'm saying that people are mixing their drinks with things like Pedialyte and electrolyte. Thirst, hydration, sports drinks, whatever, and apparently that can rush the alcohol into your bloodstream. I've never actually looked into it to see if it's a credible claim, but
well, okay. What about cocaine then? Okay, come on. In the 70s, there were all these claims, and then I mean, and do you really think that they were just doing coke and not drinking while they were doing it in the 70s?
Yeah. Hey, well, Charles, have you heard of a Jaeger bomb?
I have heard of it. I forget what it is.
It's Jaeger and Red Bull. It's Jaeger and Red Bull.
Yeah. People who don't know what that is.
You know what a Vegas bomb is? It's a Jaeger bomb. Yeah, what is that? It's Jaeger.
Yeah, Jaeger.
Cranberry, peach schnapps, and Red Bull. Ugh.
Or an excuse me, which is what is this? Excuse me. That's the one alcohol that comes in a little purple pouch. What is that one? I forget what it's called.
I have no idea. I will not be party to this depravity.
You're going to do shots during the show one of these days. Every time someone says a certain word, we're going to do a shot and see how that show goes.
Are we actually talking about a wager?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to do that because you guys are all going to realize how much of an alcoholic I am, and I'm like the most sober out of all of you guys after doing 10 shots.
Yes,
you know?
hey, the first step is admitting you have a problem.
Yeah, it's the first step. It's the first step, man.
Hey, some people do Xanax, I do beer, okay?
Yeah.
You know, so...
Yeah, talk about some stuff that can really screw up your day. Wow.
Mr. Nick Orlando's out there. Now we have 3 Floridians here. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Sunshine State is
We're taking over.
They're taking over.
Nick's out there winning the day. How you doing, Nick?
Nick's busy man.
We're gonna whip around our alligators.
Well, all the alligators right now are frozen, right? It's so cold over there. The iguanas are falling off the trees again. So
I have yet to. I've iguanas. Seen one alligator in the wild so far, and the thing was, I was so disappointed. It was this little one who was like this big, like 2 feet.
You've only seen one
for 2 years. They were
all the times I've gone kayaking, I've only seen one. It's too. I go in the springs. It's too cold for them. So
just wait till you have one in the water with you, and you're in a tube, and your butt's hanging in the water.
Well,
it's no fun.
It's a bad day. Yeah,
it's a bad day. Well, I just read an article.
It's no fun.
They like further south, but my mother had one in the a lake behind her house in Tampa, and she had 2 little mini dachshunds, little yappy mini dachshunds. I lost my mind looking after those things. Like, get your ass back.
Yeah,
they worst names ever.
I just read an article the other day.
Tico.
Someone got her hands bitten off from a shark. She was trying to take a picture of a shark in the water, and the shark bit her hands off, both of her hands. I'm like,
I read that one too. Yeah,
what are you doing?
The Darwinian kind of
thing.
Caicos
or whatever.
Yeah. I was like, well, what are you doing that close to a shark, and why did you want to take a picture of it for?
Well, actually, alligator attacks aren't that common in Florida. I was reading when I'm
they're not.
They're more common in like South Carolina in the housing developments where it's some old lady walking her dumb dog or her little dog by the retention pond, and boom, here comes the gator that's super hungry.
Yeah, and the thing in Tampa, they had there was a regulation where if there was a gator in a community that was over 5 feet long, reported the Fish and Game had to come and remove it. And
yeah, that's typical though. I mean, then when they're little, they can't eat too much. I mean, but when they get bigger, they get to eat big things,
They live for a long time, and they're really not interested in bothering you, but they're interested in eating your poodle, your miniature.
Right. Right. And people love their animals, and I don't blame them,
They're just like bears. They're curious, You leave food out, a bear's going to show up, They're
very aggressive in Australia, I hear.
See, those are crocodiles, and yes, those are
crocodiles. They're a lot different than the alligators.
Yeah, alligators are kind of low-fee in comparison. Crocodiles, those big,
Every other week, I find an article about Australia. They found another species of something that could kill you. It's like every week it's a new thing. We just found a new spider.
The number of things that you can kill you in Australia. You can't have a vape. This is it does not make any sense.
Yeah, I think they should worry about that list more than the vaping out there. It's like, let's work on this list here.
The damn spiders spiders in Australia. They'll drive a man to drink and smoke, and
the size of their bats will drive you, I mean, it's like you're expecting Dracula to come out, like
flying foxes.
Fruit bats.
That's what they are, Philip. Flying dachshunds.
Fruit bats
they're
are
amazing.
Really cute.
Yeah, they're adorable.
I love bats. Yeah.
Bats are very cool. I have one.
We have a lot of them here.
I can deal with snakes. I had a 5-foot Savannah monitor.
No.
I was a member of the Herpetological Society in Birmingham. I don't do spiders.
I don't do spiders.
I have an irrational dislike of camel crickets.
I know something else you don't like. I have a picture of it. I remember. These bother Philip as well.
Ladybugs.
You don't like ladybugs? Oh no!
Tell him the story.
Look at the look on his face. He's almost like the owl.
Jane Timberlake, my girlfriend of many years, had an apartment a part of, very nice part of the city of Birmingham. We're over there one night. I wake up and I hear this, that, or what? No, actually, she calls me to the next room. There are ladybugs, or actually, as it turns out, they're not ladybugs. But anyway, they look just like ladybugs all over the wall. And I start, trying to vacuum them up. And in the course of my vacuuming, the vacuum nozzle goes through the drywall. And next thing you know, it's literally like an entire. Yeah. I don't want to talk about it.
Infestation of ladybugs.
There are several movies.
Do you get palmetto bugs up there? Cockroaches.
Yeah, those are nasty, man.
Yeah, they're big. They're big.
I'm a hero. I can deal with roaches. Deirdre goes like, you would think she's being, hacked to death with that axe, but no, roaches don't bother me. Big ass. I was bitten. Wolf spiders,
flying at you. I don't know.
I had one. I was pouring coffee with a big old thing of coffee, and get halfway through the cup, and one comes flying across the room, hit me, fell down on my hand with the big old coffee thing. And I couldn't move anything, because I'm scared to death. I hate those things, and they're heavy, and they're nasty. But anyway, I survived, but barely.
Give me a mouse any day of the week.
You notice Charles is not saying anything because in New York everything is just so big. The rats are bigger than everywhere else.
Remember, I'm a scientist, so let me weigh in with some scientific facts here.
Yeah.
All of God's creations can be arrayed on what I call the ickiness scale.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
This is the more legs you have, the more icky you are.
Exactly. Unless you're a snake, you don't need to have legs.
I was only 6 years old when a wolf spider that seemed to be the size of a damn grapefruit. I picked it up because that's my guy, and it bit the living. Those things bite. Yeah. Okay. Ooh. You don't know this when you're 7. Well, let's just say it was all over for me after that. Or weavers. I'm sure they're wonderful. The Juros spiders that don't come from here that I think they're invasive. Gorgeous. Do I want to be anywhere near them? Hell no.
Hell no. No, I'm good. Anything else you guys want to throw out there?
Well, Nick, if Nick is still on here, way to go, Nick, on the popcorn lung lady and representing the dance. He just shared a picture on Facebook, and I was like, "Is that the popcorn lung lady?" She's the one that sat there and said last year during the state hearing, he's got popcorn in his lungs. Now I pulled that clip and I threw it on Twitter. Now I didn't tag her in it. I didn't even sit here and say anything negative. All I sat there and said was like, my thoughts and prayers are with you and Nick and Florida Smoke Free Association, because this is what you're dealing with. Not that picture. No, there's no woman in that picture unless you count Nick.
We want to help this person. We don't want her to spend the rest of her life talking about things that are actually going to.
No, well, he just commented. I was like, "Wait, is that the popcorn lung lady?" And he's like, "Not anymore. That is a smoke-free
There's our man, Mr. Nick.
Okay, so Nick has turned her from someone who did not know to someone who knows, and
somebody who completely ignorant, and she's got a D behind her name too. So. And I've been saying for years too. I mean, I know that Phillip, you're a little bit more on the center left side, right? Correct?
I am now.
No, all right. Well, I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I've never thought that we should have been only focused on Republicans, in our THR advocacy. That especially
only on Republicans or only on Democrats?
Only on, I don't think tobacco harm reduction is a partisan issue, okay? And especially if you're going to start looking at it too, people who smoke tend to be poorer, tend to be less educated, actually. And that's what the bread and butter of the Democrats or whatnot and everything. So, and I've always kind of gotten annoyed over the past few years about that, is that this emphasis on Republicans when we really need to be educating the Democrats just as much as we're educating the Republicans. We already have the Republicans because of personal freedom and choice or whatnot, but
at least we thought we did. Well, yes, you're correct. All kidding aside, that would probably best describe me. And yes, you're absolutely right. While this is always going to be political, the actual there are going to be it's going to be political, but tobacco harm reduction itself should never be about your political item. It should be about speaking to anyone and everyone who will listen, who needs to hear more. And I cannot possibly, what Lindsey just said, please say it again.
It's not partisan. Tobacco harm reduction is not partisan. So I don't care if you have a D or an R behind your name. Yeah.
And we cannot afford to assume that an R or a D is for or against. We need to speak to them all like they're our friends. And
that's what our failure was with the Biden. That was our failure with the Biden administration. I think we had enough, especially coming after Trump and that stuff. We could have literally probably gone farther with Biden than what I think we're going to go with Trump. But that's just my opinion. Sorry, Charles, interrupt you.
Okay.
It gets frustrating. A lot of the legalized cannabis, but let's ban all the nicotine products. It gets extraordinarily frustrating. But we have to find ways to speak to people who are unlike us, who may have opinions or even policies that we despise. And we need to speak to them about one thing and one thing only, and that is about helping smokers quit or switch to nicotine products that will not kill them slowly.
You're absolutely correct. I think that's one of our issues too, Philip. And I think we need to put politics aside, and it doesn't matter if you're an R or a D, man, we're just fighting for the same thing, and I think that needs to stop. And until that happens, I think we're going to be fighting. It's the same thing Lindsey was saying earlier, just, one's fighting for open systems, the other one's fighting for disposal. We need to fight for the same cause. And stop trying to, because that was the early days, 2012.
Right.
They were.
And I'm not saying that we don't need to be. I think we do need to be critical of our elected officials on all sides of the spectrum.
They suck. Okay, I don't care if there's a DR and R behind their name. Okay, they're a politician.
Well, it's just right now. I'm not ready for Donald Trump's birthday to be a federal holiday. How's that? So
it's gonna be. No, I'm kidding. I don't know.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you are a Trump supporter, what you do is you need to be evaluating his every move and letting him know exactly when you're not happy with what you voted for, and that is your duty as a citizen.
Yeah. Anybody got anything else they want to share about how to get our message out there? What else should we be doing, Charles?
Yeah. So another population we rarely talk about or think about, American veterans and enlisted people smoke at higher rates than the general population. And there are increasingly a few people on social media who are vets and who are advocates, and we should give them love and follow them and encourage them. And there's one in particular whose name I'm forgetting.
I think it's Dr. Vermillion, Timothy.
Actually, that sounds right. And he's very smart.
And he has a group on Facebook where he gives little talks about the different safer alternatives for smoking that's custom tailored. He's very I thought he was very persuasive, and he's on Twitter.
So, and this is just U.S. centric, but the Veterans Administration, the VA, they have really shit policies on tobacco harm reduction. So that's something that could be changed.
Yeah,
and needs to be changed, right?
It basically mirrors the armed forces position on tobacco harm reduction. Can't be on base.
It's super bad to kill vets.
Yes,
it really is. So there's some powerful arguments to be made there.
Yeah. Well, I remember there was like when I first started getting into advocacy with ZampleBox, there was a lot of groups that were out there in Washington. I want to say one of them was the Pink Brigades. You guys remember that group?
You had the Vape Army. I remember the one girl out of Pennsylvania did stuff with the military vets too.
Yeah. I can't remember. That was
2018.
Yeah. I can't remember what their name. I don't know.
There's a dude out of like Oregon or Washington State that was doing a lot too. I think he did the Vape Vet project.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Charles, I did when I was at Heartland. There was actually 1 year, and it was before they started, before the DOD, went and cut out, THR products being, accessible if you were on the ship or whatnot. But I want to say it was like 2018 that you actually had more vets that were actually vaping than smoking. And that was like, and I was like, well, then I wrote like a research and commentary on it or whatnot and stuff. And it was just like, I got bogged down with other stuff to go follow up with that, but it would be interesting to see if there, I think like somebody did one survey or something and it was just like, wow. And then look at this, you saw like a greater decrease in smoking than what you saw among the, the US general population. So
I'm shocked. But they stopped selling nicotine vapes
in commissary and
commissaries.
My son said it was very difficult when they banned it because there was a lot of guys that vaped in the sub and that was their outlet. And when they took that away, it was you got 25 guys in the sub for 3 months. The last thing you need them is being on edge, not getting their nicotine. That they've already smoked in subs. Let's be real here, okay? I mean, so it's doable, okay? They used to smoke in planes all the time.
Right. There's a movie called Das Boot. Everyone should see that.
That's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a movie.
Yeah. All right, guys, we're done. It's 6:01. And I want to thank Lindsey and Charles and Philip and Michelle and that bald-headed guy there from Australia, Mr. 250, whatever his numbers are there.
Good to see you, Paulie.
Yeah, it was good seeing you, Paul.
You look good, baby.
Yeah,
marvelous, in fact.
Yeah, you're making me want to shave my head. I don't know why. I don't know. Might happen.
You wouldn't look good with a bald head.
Your hair look like anyways, John? You always wear a hat, so
I always wear a hat. But my mom,
it could be bald as far as we know that's underneath there.
Yeah. But my mom told me a long time ago when I said I was going to shave my head. She said, "No, don't do it, Johnny, because I dropped you a lot." So that's telling me you didn't do it.
It's absolutely horrendously, terribly rude. I'm
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you again, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for being here tonight.
Everybody next Wednesday. Everybody look into the camera and say goodbye. Bye, everybody. Bye.